Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Umi Qoni'ah, and here I want to explain about word stress. From what I've learned, before we talk about word stress, we must know about syllable. A syllable is the smallest unit of word that usually have one vowel in it and one or more consonants. For example, if we take a word exactly, here we break it down to small units. Exactly. We hear and we feel that we have 3 syllables. Exactly. And in a word apple, if we break it down to small units, we will hear and feel that we have 2 syllables. Apple. And in a word university, it has 5 syllables. University. And every word must have primary stress, because correct primary stress helps the listener to understand your speech. And primary stress also can change the meaning of word with the same spelling. Word stress is the emphasis we place in a specific syllable of a word when pronouncing it. In English words that have more than 1 syllable, we usually don't pronounce every syllable with the same weight. So each syllable of a word can be stressed or unstressed. So what makes the stressed syllable different? There are 3 things that we need to do to pronounce stress correctly. The first, the stressed syllable should be louder. Second, the stressed syllable should be a little higher. And the third, the stressed syllable should be a little longer in the time. So the opposite is true for unstressed syllable to make them quieter, lower, and shorter. For example, in a word respect, here the second syllable is the stress. Respect, because packed is louder, higher, and a little longer. Respect. And in a word apple, the first syllable is the stress. Apple. University. Exactly. The middle syllable is the stress. Exactly. And then we're confusing about how to identify word stress. There are some rules which can help to find word stress. The first rule, if we add suffix to a word, suffix is the small addition that can change the meaning of word and the lexical function. For example, if we take a word human, when you add ity, it turns into humanity. When we add suffix in most affixes, it kind of like draws and pulls the stress closer to the suffix. For example, in a word human, here the stress is on the first syllable. Human. But once I add ity, it draws the stress, and the stress is moved from human to humanity, from flexible to flexibility. Second rules. When there is a word with 2 syllables and that word is a verb, usually the stress is on the second syllable. For example, create, remove. And if the word is noun, the stress is usually on the first syllable. Window, flower, toddler. And there is word that exactly the same, and the only thing that changed is the stress. When it's verb, the stress is on the second syllable. Present. And if it's a noun, the stress is on the first syllable. Present. If it's a verb, present. and if it's a noun, present. Object, object. Reject, reject. The third rule, if a word ends in tion, sion, and cian, it almost usually the stress is on the second last syllable. For example, imagination, permission, magician. The same rule is true for ending ic, dramatic, Atlantic, iconic. The fourth rule, if a word ends with the letter Y and has 3 or more syllables, then the stress is on the second syllable before the last one. For example, biology, priority. That means if a word has 3 syllables, then the stress is on the first syllable. For example, enemy, library, energy. The fifth rule, if a word is made from a shorter root word, then the stress is generally in the same place as the root word. For example, comfort, comfortable, uncomfortable. In all these words, the stress is in the same place as the root word, comfort. But stress can move if you make a longer word from a root word. For example, photograph, photography, photographic. And the last rule is if a word don't belong to all that rule, first try to guess what the primary stress is, and then pronounce it and record it. After that, trying to identify what was the primary stress that you used. And then you want to go to the dictionary, can be Google search or dictionary.com. So that is how you know where the primary stress is for sure, and then you can compare it with your detected. Okay, and that's all the rules, but the most important rules is practicing. Practice your pronunciation, practice your speaking, practice your listening, and practice your reading. And that's my explanation about word stress. Thank you for your attention. I'm Umi Qoni'ah. The last I say, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.